My name is Evan, and this is my video out. I was actually brought for a job. I joined a research institute here in the city and have been doing work in biomedical science for the last 6 months, kind of following a progression of education and experience that led me to working in cancer research. So Florida is definitely very different than New York City. The variety of people is kind of spread out in a very wide manner. Growing up, I grew up in a super suburban town, where parents shuttle kids between soccer, lacrosse, karate, etc. And really not knowing a whole lot about kind of my world outside of, school and home. I went to a Catholic school when I was through elementary and middle school, and really you kind of only knew that world from there on in. And it wasn't really until I got to high school that kind of opened my eyes up a lot wider. I actually had the opportunity of going to kind of a different, sort of a different approach to high school. It's what's called full immersion, dual enrollment. And essentially, instead of going to high school, we got to go to college in place of high school. So we essentially took 1 year to go to high school, and then the rest of us, we were on a college campus with college students taking the college level classes with everyone else, and hopefully finishing our degrees in that time frame. So at that point, kind of within, I would say, a day of doing that, a day of starting, I kind of had this culture shock of, all right, there is so much of a wider view outside of what I was experienced for. And the sad thing is some of that only lives in its own bubble. It's very opportunistic when it comes to finding it, and if you're really not lucky about it and aren't looking for it, then you don't really come across that. And that sort of experience opened my eyes to wanting to kind of reach out and talk to people, have discussions on things that would be, otherwise considered taboo or not normal for someone my age to actually have. And it kind of made me realize that opening a discussion with others was the most incredible way to not only learn more, but also understand others to such a greater degree that you realize that the only thing that's wrong about our differences is that we don't explore them enough. Being here is, moving here has really sort of amplified that in a way. Everyone's so much closer together that the proximity to finding someone interesting is literally walking outside your door. And you never know who you're going to run into, and you never know what someone's story is, but there's also that emphasis on, my story is important, my reality is important, and I want to share that reality, and I want others to understand that even though we're only 5 feet apart, my whole world may be completely different to what I'm experiencing here, and what you may see on the outside is definitely not what's on the inside. It was actually sort of the end of high school. I had a very close friend who I had known sort of on and off for many years, and at some point we kind of instantly became best friends. And it was a few months before we graduated and finished, and I started to realize I had feelings that were a little bit more than just friendship toward this person. And I wanted to spend more time with him. I wanted to spend a lot more time doing things with him, and I wanted to get closer. And it was at that point that I kind of realized, like, I had never had these strong of feelings for anyone else. I have never been this way with anyone else, and I've never had this set of attractions to anyone else. And it was kind of a shock. It was something that I had thought about before because I didn't have an interest in anyone. I thought I was just kind of me, and for a long time I thought, all right, I'm not going to have an attraction to anyone. And that kind of all changed, and at that point it's when I started to realize, all right, maybe this is something to explore. And being in that world and being from where I grew up, and how things were kind of viewed and how that wasn't really discussed so much, kind of had to lead me to almost do it in secret, kind of discover this in secret, without being able to talk to anyone about it. And for almost a year and a half, I kind of kept this to myself and explored it in a secret. And at some point, I kind of realized that it wasn't right to do that. And at some point, I grew tired of the secrecy, and at some point, it became more stressful to me than just not caring anymore. So I kind of had this one-night epiphany moment that essentially said, you know what? What is the point of hiding if it doesn't mean you're going to help yourself? And what's the point of hiding if you're not willing to be comfortable enough with yourself like you were before? You know who you are. Why just not let it be what it needs to be? And, like that, I kind of made the decision to tell my parents. To the research group I was working with at the time, one of them sort of instantly became a very close friend of mine as well. Her and I had a really long discussion about this, and what it made me realize was that the people I had surrounded myself with and the opportunities I had taken to understand people and get to know what was outside of my comfort zone came down to this point where there was a level of acceptance that I wasn't, anticipating. I was anticipating the worst. I was preparing for the worst. But in reality, when people took the time to get to know me and I took the time to get to know them, they realized there's no difference between us no matter what. You were always this no matter what. And just saying it out loud is just accepting yourself and deciding that you're ready for the world to understand that this is just another part of you, and it doesn't change the person you are. It doesn't make you different, and it only makes you just more of you. I would have to say it's okay to be willing to learn and understand your feelings. There is a point in time at which you'll kind of realize that those feelings are real and they are a part of you. But the one thing I would say is make sure you have someone to talk to. Make sure there's one person who you can go to. Make sure there's a person that knows your emotions or is willing to listen. Make sure there's that blank slate in front of you that you can write with whatever you need to in order to better understand yourself. Don't wall yourself off so much that you don't have that one person you can go to and talk to about this. Always feel like you can reach out to someone, and know that no matter what, there are millions of other people who are dealing with this at the same time as you are. So you're not the only one going through this. And there are places and there are institutes that are there to help you understand yourself and help you move forward and help you realize that if this is part of who you are, then you should be free to accept it. What is my favorite part about being me? This is going to sound so corny, but it's definitely the way my mind works. That is the thing that I love most about myself. I find that I think a little bit in a very odd manner, and it's kind of what has led me to sort of a progression of life that I'm very happy with at this point. And in reality, that has given me 3 traits that I wish, I want more people to be able to understand, and that's not having a need to judge people for any of their actions, being willing to listen and be open to others, and finally accepting others for everything and anything that they are, and just saying that, most importantly, there's no such thing as perfection, and if you try and achieve perfection, then you'll sacrifice your happiness for it. So be happy, and that'll be your perfection. The only other thing is, all I can say is, don't feel like you need to feel inside of a bubble of any type. Just be you. Don't feel like you need to fit into a schema, to fit into someone else's idea of what you need to be. Just be you and be proud of it and be strong of it. And your confidence is more powerful than anything else that will accentuate who you are.